Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive into the stretch test, where we measure how much demand bends or breaks.
So you're probably wondering, what on earth does a solid steel bar have to do with medicine prices? Well, economist Alfred Marshall called this elasticity of demand. It measures exactly how much demand stretches when prices fluctuate. Picture an architect in a lab pulling on materials to see how they stretch. That pulling force, it's price. First up, a thin rubber band. A tiny price tweak causes an infinite stretch. That's perfectly elastic demand. Next, a solid steel bar. Pull the price hard, but demand doesn't budge at all. Perfectly inelastic. Think medicine. Then we have a perfect one-to-one stretch. Price drops 50%, demand rises 50%. That's unitary elastic. A massive stretch means relatively elastic demand, but a really stubborn tiny stretch, that's relatively inelastic. So here are Marshall's 5 elasticity types. Which of these materials best represents the stuff you buy? But hey, price isn't the only force in our lab. Your income pulls heavily on demand too. Rising income stretches demand for normal goods, but actually shrinks demand for inferior goods, like cheap bikes. Cross-elasticity measures how one price stretches another. Positive for substitutes like coffee, negative for complements like sugar. For completely unrelated things like tea and books, demand stays flat. There's absolutely zero cross-elasticity there. Okay, so what exactly makes a product act like steel versus a rubber band? Let's look at the variables. Having lots of close substitutes makes demand highly elastic, but strong habits or addictions make demand rigidly inelastic. Urgent needs act like steel too, and if it's a tiny chunk of your budget, it's relatively inelastic. Give consumers more time, and they'll eventually find cheaper substitutes. This increases the elastic stretch of their demand. Why does all this matter? Well, for producers, knowing your product's elasticity is absolutely crucial for setting prices. Governments heavily tax goods with relatively inelastic demand, simply because people will keep buying them regardless of price. It even impacts global forces, like OPEC raising oil prices, or workers successfully negotiating for higher wages. This concept is literally a game changer. Lord Keynes called it Marshall's most important contribution to economics. So look at your very next purchase and ask, is my demand for this made of steel or a rubber band?